So over the next few minutes, I want to do three more things. One is I want to start with some of the macro trends in intelligence and security that we're observing across the world when we look at time. And from those macro trends, I want to relate to you the paradigm shift that is happening in security postures that agencies across the world are taking. And from the changes in security posture, what are the key elements of a public security and a disaster management system that needs to be there? So I'm going to do all of this in 10 minutes or less. And then finally I conclude with some examples of what we have done in India. I guess all of you guys can hear me?
You're an expert there, all of them. We will basically share over.
Great. Increasing sophistication. So if you look at what has happened in the last 10 years, whether that be 9/11, Madrid, London, Bombay, people who with malicious intent are using the power of internet, using the power of collaboration that internet offers to do things that normally you wouldn't associate with crime, or people generally didn't do about 15 years ago. Right? And we're trying to tackle this with laws that were written for a different era. With laws that existed in the 19th century, 20th century, we're trying to battle terrorists and people with malicious intent who are very, very well trained. Right? Second, the asynchronous impact. A group of 11 people in Mumbai, the damage they did, or a group of 20 or 19 people in New York, the damage they did, a group of 7 in London, the damage they did. It's a small group of people able to impact large amounts of damage which armies would do maybe about 50 years ago. Third, an increasing explosion of data, whether that be on the internet, credit cards, 400 million cell phone users in India. And this data, all of them contain really great pieces of information if we are able to put them together. Because of all of these terrorist incidents or incidents that we go through, there's one common factor, and the common factor is people. And people need to get together to plan. And as the circles of people increase, the signals that they send out increase also. Now, if we're capable to identify those signals and put them all together. And finally, and this has been a hot area of debate in the Western world, is as we put together acts like the Patriot Act in the US or the Quota Act in India, where do we draw the line between protecting civil liberties and the trade-off that you got to give up on some civil liberties to catch people with malicious intent? So as we frame this policy, and we'll have arguments and policy discussions, it's very important that we frame them under the guidelines of how do we keep living in a civil society without losing our rights to freedom, and yet be flexible enough, the laws be flexible enough to catch the people who intend to do us harm. So the paradigm shift that has happened, or that we're seeing happening with agencies across the world, is we usually operate from a posture of react. An incident happens, how do you react to that? How do you get forces there, right? And minimize loss of life and property. We're beginning to see, especially after what happened in 9/11 in the United States, a paradigm shift from reaction to prediction and preemption. So this is publicly available that after 9/11, there were at least 20 attempts at similar kinds of incidents aimed at the United States. And all 20 of them were caught as they moved from the planning to the execution stage. Right? So it's no longer about the ability to react to a situation, even though that is very, very important, because you've got to be 100% right, but the other side's probably got to be less than 100% right to get it right. Right? So this whole ability to predict and preempt planning of operations. The sense and respond is actually a transitionary step. So if you look at this as a continuum, with the ability to react being on the left-hand side and the prediction and preempt to be on the right-hand side, sense and respond would be right of center. Right? Now, yesterday in the Economic Times there was an article about India's spending in homeland security over the next few years. And I believe it is going to be something in the order of about $2.5 billion over the next few years. Now, what caught my interest was a significant amount of money from the $2.5 billion or somewhere in that extent was going to be spent on bulletproof vests, on arms and ammunition. Now, we're still operating under this paradigm of let us react. Now, if you already got to the situation of let us react, you're too late. Right? They've already won. So this struggle that we are having as we speak to agencies in India, it's actually about two things. One is just enough is good enough. Right? Just enough is good enough. And the second is this whole concept of give me a proof of concept. Right? Word perfect, Microsoft Office products have been used across the world for a number of years. You try selling Microsoft Office product to somebody, in an agency in India, you will get to be asked to do a proof of concept. Right? So as we look at these technologies that have been developed and implemented across the world in very successful ways, and there's not a long-standing history of being successful, and I don't understand this issue of let me see a proof of concept. It just elongates this procurement cycle, and every day we wait is a day too long. Right? So as we look at this paradigm shift, the security objectives started with the efficiency of enablers. Right? If you go to a police station today, any police station in India today, there is very little of absence of automation. All the way from fingerprinting to FIRs to recording of FIRs. These are all good bits of data that is sitting on papers and other media that, if integrated together, can give us a whole volume of information on how to go and be in a paradigm of predict and preempt. Detection and preemption, deterrence and target handling,